Yeah, I have a thing about drugs being legal. I feel all drugs should be legal because I think everybody should be ultimately held responsible. I think there's too many protections for people. And there's not enough people that actually get to experience the consequences of their actions.
To be honest, the Democrats want free college to make drugs legal. There you go. There's the money you need.
Well, I guess if you want to go to the whole politic thing, if I can comment on that, it's, I think, a little bipartisan, when it comes to people wanting to own up to their own shit. I think there's a lot of Republicans, a lot of Democrats who feel that you ultimately should be held responsible for your actions. I know I don't fit in either camp myself, but I just feel like people need to be held accountable. If you want to dope up and shoot up your life, then that's cool. Go ahead, and I won't stop you. I wouldn't do anything. I'd just say, okay, well, it's natural selection for you. And people, yeah, good luck. There's natural selection for you. Some people are just like that, and in the world of nature, you either stand by your own 2 feet or you fall by your own weakness, and it's how it should be, I think. It's harsh, but I mean, that's life, Right. It's nature.
But, like, what about the kids?
But what do you say?
Like, they had kids.
So the thing with kids, those are really the victims in this whole unfortunate scenario where you have people parents doing drugs and stuff like that. Inadvertently, you even have some kids that end up hooked up on drugs by like the mom, if she was an addict, for example, they do have to have the kids on, I don't know, like small doses of methadone or something. I don't know what they have for these poor kids that come out and their moms were users, So that's really, those are the victims. The children are the victims, not so much the parents. The parents are old enough to know the difference between what is useful and what is harmful. And obviously, if you're an adult and you're an addict, as harsh as it sounds, I have absolutely zero tolerance or sympathy for anybody like that, because you should know better. You really should. And it's just a harsh way to look at things. But I feel that if you're struggling with some form of addiction, or if you're struggling with some drug, if you're enslaved by a drug, I highly encourage you to get help in some way, because that's one of the only ways you can move past that. And when I say get help, I mean help yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
You can't expect someone else to pick you up, and I think that's one of the problems we have in society is we coddle people that have these problems, and in a way we become enablers, telling these people, hey, it's okay to be a fuck up because we're going to take care of you. You know what I mean? Is that not the truth?
I mean, there's like this thing that people say, like,
So blunt.
I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just telling it like it is,
yeah, like you just can't change people if they don't want to change.
It's just like, wow.
Right. But I mean, those people, I don't actively go out of my way to put them down or make fun of them. They put themselves down far more than anyone else could ever hope to, I think. I just think it perpetuates the problem when you support it by offering methadone clinics, offering these groups that say it's okay to be an addict when it's not. It destroys lives. They destroy their lives, the people that care about them. The children, like I said, are the victims throughout this whole thing. Nobody forces these people to pick up a syringe or a pipe and smoke or whatever. So I have my views. A lot of people disagree with that. They'll feel, and that's okay. They feel that there should be these programs or whatever that help addicts, and that's fine and dandy. I'm not going to bitch about it because it already exists. So I mean, I wouldn't take it away because I can't, number one, but it's there. So
What do you mean by
for those people that need it, I guess take advantage.
rehab and stuff, or are you talking about something else?
Oh, AA, rehab, methadone clinics. I mean, like I said, if it was totally up to me, I would just say, hey, let's take this all away and see how you fare on your own. And a lot of people would perish. But the people that are left behind that don't do these types of things, I can say are strong in character, stable of mind and emotion, and most people would be the pioneers to carry the future. So we'd create more people like that.
Darwinism, you know?
Social Darwinism, yeah, I guess you could say that. That's essentially what it is.
One-sided way of looking at it. Because it wouldn't like that.
It's an ideology. It's not, obviously it's not in practice. It's more of it's like theory and practice. The practice of it has not really come into fruition, and it probably never will, because there's too much money to be made in subsidizing these types of things and promoting drug culture and stuff like that. Let's talk about empathy for a moment. So let's place our perspectives in each other's shoes. I'll place it in their shoes for a moment, and then place it on this scenario I'm going to give to you for a moment, because it's a true story. My mother, she had two brothers. Both my uncles are now dead. They grew up in the poorest side of Mexico, down on, I think, my great-grandmother came from the Sierra Madre Mountains in Mexico. I'm trying to think back to my family's history. They moved to El Paso, Texas. Grew up on the southern side of El Paso, Texas, called Segundo Barrio. And I remember my grandma telling me stories that they didn't have a toilet, that they'd have to essentially shit in a bucket and do what they did with that. I have no idea what that's like. My uncle, long story short, became addicted to heroin. And they grew up all in the same location. They grew up in the same spot. My mother never turned to drugs. There's been many times where she was told, hey, try this, she told me stories, hey, try this, it'll make you feel better, and she would always refuse. She would always say, one of us has to stay strong for the family, this and that. So long story short, my mother was put in the exact same situation, and through her strength of character and her perseverance did not succumb to the weakness that was inside of her. And for that, she never became an addict. My uncle, on the other hand, was exposed to the exact same scenario, same place they grew up, they shared a room. All of them did not have separate rooms. They shared one space together. So you can imagine having my uncle shooting up drugs in the corner with my mother on one side, sleeping on the floor with a blanket and a pillow, and my grandmother having to work so she would not get home. She used to work at Levi Strauss, if I remember correctly. She worked a few jobs, but Levi Strauss was one of the jobs she had. But I digress. I don't want to get too deep into this. I'm just letting you know that there are people out there that do not succumb to the weakness, even if they're exposed to the exact same scenario. So again, it really boils down to your state of mind, not so much your environment. Your environment plays a part. It really does. I just feel like that's not the only component, and I see it from her side of things and his side of things. He was weak, and now he's dead, and that's nobody's fault but his. And he never wanted to get help. So there's that story for you.
Of us, we do have that choice of whatever we decide to take.
Can I very briefly
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. This is a topic of conversation that is it's interesting. It's not spooky, but it is interesting. Go ahead, Tiffany. You have the mic.
I'm enjoying this, you guys. And I want to thank everybody for being respectful too. That's so important.
Sure.
But this is actually I've met this person the last couple of years. They're my neighbor. My next door neighbor is a mother and a father and their son who comes to visit on occasion. their son, I think he's in his late 20s, maybe early 30s. But I was talking to his mother outside one day, and she was in tears, breaking down because her son, he's an addict. He has such a hard time dealing with his addiction, and he falters a lot. He wants help, but he falters a lot. So she told me his story. When he was just 4 years old, he went to work with his grandfather, who works in construction, and he wound up getting his hand stuck in equipment, and it took off all the fingers on his right hand. And the pain was so great. Imagine a 4-year-old child going through that. They took him to a doctor. Of course, they went to the ER. They gave him opiates for the pain when he was just 4 years old. And he had to take those for a long time because, losing fingers hurts. And just a couple of years later, he breaks an arm. Had to get opiates for the pain for that. This was back when they were overprescribing opiates at the hospital. So he went from being 4 years old to being about, I think, 7 or 8 years old when he was on those opiates again. And then I can't remember what the third thing was, but when he was a teenager, something else happened. I think it was, I don't know, he was in an accident or something, but he had, more pain, went to the doctor, they prescribed him more opiates. So throughout his whole life, he's had these opiates in his system, and they didn't have any other options for him at the time. Of course, now we know better than to prescribe them like crazy like that. But he is, I believe that he is a victim of the system that's been put onto him from a very young age. And while he could, I agree, he could definitely do more to help himself. He probably is a weak person at heart that way, but I think that we could do more as a society to help pull him out of that. That's just my personal opinion. But that's just that way you guys have another perspective to base your opinions on.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, reward system is nothing to screw
Yeah,
around.
opiates are highly addictive. There's no doubt about that. Opiates. I remember one time I broke, that was more recently. I had a kidney stone at one point, and they gave me Vicodin for that. And I remember when I took the Vicodin, the pain just completely disappeared, and it felt so good. It felt so good. And I remember distinctly feeling the pills running out. I remember this happening and asking, shit, there's no more? Like, can I get a refill? I remember asking that when I didn't really need any more of it because it felt so good. So that's just an example from my personal experience of just how addictive these things can be. However, I'm sorry, what?
I said House MD. No one's gonna know that reference at all.
I got it.
Okay, good. Somebody got it.
I get it as well. Yeah.
I just feel that these drugs that are being pushed on people. When you lose fingers, there's only so many drugs you can take, and painkillers is definitely one of them. Okay, so that is a necessity, I feel. However, once painkillers are gone, there should be, instead of offering a replacement for these painkillers, there should be more, I feel, done to wean this person off entirely of these drugs, instead of, again, perpetuating the problem by offering an alternative to continue, like, well, you're used to these, let's give you something, to kind of help you with that. No, let's how about get them off of this entirely? And I feel that a lot of methadone clinics don't offer that. I think a lot of people, and I've seen them because we have them here, there's people that purposely go to these methadone clinics to get high, not just to wean themselves off of heroin, but they go to these clinics essentially because they want to, not because there's people that do need to, but on the flip side, there's people that want to. You got to remember that methadone clinics are they're funded by the state. Okay, so your taxpayer money is going to this stuff. So, I mean, one thing I don't encourage people to do at the witching hour is to fight back and forth as far as people's perspectives are concerned. Politics is not one topic that we've ever touched upon, really. However, if the topic ever did come up, I would highly encourage, just when we talk about the paranormal and the subconscious, to engage in civil discourse. There are people that are going to disagree, undoubtedly. So, if that's the case, offer your side of the argument, and let's look at this thoroughly. Because I've always said that the only way to cultivate true reason is to consider opposing views. So, as far as politics are concerned, I don't subscribe to any one side. I'm not a leftist, and I'm not a conservative. So, up to the way right away, just to let you guys know that I'm not biased when it comes to that. But I do lean towards a lot of social Darwinism, encouraging people to be held completely responsible for their actions. So, and that's a harsh viewpoint for a lot of people to essentially subscribe to, because it's not what we're used to. You know, we're social creatures, and we're used to having others build us up and be there for us and stuff like that. And social Darwinism is a very cold and brutal perspective, meaning it's every man for himself, it's eye for an eye. The only people that should matter in your life is you and your loved ones, not complete strangers. And that's a very scary thought to a lot of people. And really, that's not my personal ideology. That's just the way things are naturally. And what we have, I think, is a social construct of what we see now in society, which is, like I said, you know, these methadone clinics where we support people that should be held responsible for their drug use. But again, Sonny, you make a great point with this kid, for example, that was a victim, I feel, of the system. You have to remember this child was, what, 4 years old? I've said the victims of this whole drug thing, the ones that are caught in the crossfire, are children. And that's this kid was made an addict at so young of an age, you know? If it's an adult, I think it's a different story. You know, like in my case, when I wanted more of that Vicodin, I didn't become addicted. I felt like the urge to get more, and that was probably the beginnings of what could have been an addiction. But I made a choice to say, you know what, I don't need it anymore. I've experimented with cannabis. I've experimented with mushrooms. I've experimented with cocaine. I've done these things way in my youth. And I got to tell you, it was very hard for me personally to get addicted to any one of these things, simply because I couldn't understand the mentality behind cocaine. Cocaine, for example, is arguably one of the most addictive substances to man, right? Either I got some really shitty coke, or I have not done enough of this drug to know whether or not I could have became addicted to it, but I just know that it was either really bad or it was really my choice to not become addicted to it, because I only tried it maybe a couple times back when I was in high school. And my friends, some of them kept doing it day after day after day. And I just couldn't understand it. I really couldn't. I remember going to one of their houses one time, and one of them was looking out the window, just wide-eyed, just snorting all the time, walking around. It was something stupid and typical that you see in a fucking Cheech and Chong movie or something. And it was just ridiculous. I could never understand that. Maybe you guys have different experiences with that type of stuff.
You brought up cocaine specific because I'm in the Coast Guard, and I've seen quite a few hundreds of tons of cocaine before and handled it too. And I fucking hated it every time that we had to handle, because usually, like, what our bus is, it's usually about like between 1 to 2 metric tons of cocaine typically. And you're handling all this fucking cocaine, and we have to wear like long sleeves. We have to wear like respirators and stuff like that, like the N95 mask. But that shit still like seeps through your skin or through your clothes after a while, and then you've been up for like 12 hours trying to go after these drug runners, and now you can't fucking go to sleep because you're high because of all this cocaine that's soaked into your system. This shit fucking sucks, man. I don't know how anyone could actually enjoy that as a drug. I hated it so much.
That's just the inadvertent.
Yeah,
way
the inadvertent exposure is
right. Kind of shitty. I guess it comes with the job.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. No, I remember experiencing euphoria, and I remember being super talkative. I do recall that moment, and it felt okay at the time, but when it wore off, it felt completely horrible, and I did not want to experience that again. It was such a shitty effect that I just couldn't understand how people could become addicted to something so stupid. But maybe it's very subjective, I guess. It doesn't affect everybody the same way. There's people out there that have a completely different experience than me, and that's A-okay. And another thing with this whole drugs and looking at perspectives, we all have different perspectives, and it's important to have these perspectives. There is no, I feel, one way things should be with these perspectives, because I feel that you guys have different views on this that are very useful. And for the most part, if you take the best parts of this viewpoint, that viewpoint, you can really come to form an individual opinion on where you stand with these types of, there's people out there that drugs are a no-go. There's people out there that can use drugs responsibly. When I say that, I mean, there's people that don't go overboard. They don't go fucking killing people. They don't go drinking, driving. They don't go smoking and causing chaos and havoc. And it's that type of moderation that I feel is important enough to consider. I mean, I personally don't hold a grudge against anybody who does drugs in a way that they're not fucking their lives up. It's not a replacement for their identity. It doesn't do anything more than maybe enhance a fucking movie or whether a guy wants to treat his insomnia or his fucking ED or whatever he's got going on with these things. I mean, that's his prerogative. I got no problem with that. But like personally, I wouldn't. But that's just me. But I don't look down on somebody else who does that in a way that not ruining his life. Like I said, you got to take responsibility for your action. If it's not ruining your life, well, more power to you. So, but anyway, we're way into the show, and we just kind of led up into this topic, which is a little interesting since it's got nothing at all to do with paranormal. So a little off topic, but should be the topic. Let me go and direct your attention really quick here to this picture. This picture, by the way, is the YouTube channel. That's the main picture to the YouTube channel that hosts the Witching Hour as well as the Prank Call Comedy Hour. So I am the host of both of those shows, and again, is the main channel's picture. I'm going to create a playlist dedicated to both shows, so you'll be able to see this, I guess, rerun on the appropriate playlist. So behind this picture is another picture. It's a hidden picture you obviously can't see. And what I like to do is to have you guys just try to engage your intuition, your subconscious mind, if you will. And the way to do that is to just go with the first thing that popped into your head. I'm going to try my best to maybe even project this image onto you guys by telling you what it is, obviously muting myself. But if you can imagine me continuing to talk, just the best metaphor I can give is to tune into the radio and get rid of the static in the background and just hear what I'm saying. That's not the best instruction in the world, but I can't describe it any clearer than that. Let's try. So I'm going to tell you what is back there. Okay? So, oh, and by the way, it's not a word. Okay, I like to tell you guys that it's actually an image. And again, the reason why I choose just a simple picture versus a word, for example, is because your subconscious mind, your dominant mind, when you were a small child, operated on just pictures and sounds, not words you would read in a book. So I feel that this picture I have is very simple. It's probably one of the most simple pictures I've had. So if you get a certain picture pop into your head, a certain color, a certain whatever into your mind, go with that. Don't second guess yourself. Don't try to add on to it. Just the first thing that pops into your head. It can be totally random, and it is random. So just go with that. So I'm going to go ahead and try to project that image onto you guys now. All right. So we'll see how that goes. Stick with your first impression and just go with that. We'll be revealing that at the end of the show. So far on the past shows that we've had, I had It the Clown. I had a orange cat. I had some tacos. I think the tacos was the first one I had. Totally random. And it was interesting what the audience said, especially during the cat one, because I had an orange cat back there. And I went to the audience at the end of the show and I said, okay, so what do you think? What do you think this is? What do you think this is? And one person remembers saying, it's orange. It's definitely orange. And he said, I think it's a carrot. So I think that was his conscious mind trying to input something there, but subconsciously his first guess was orange. So that was interesting. And then two other people in the audience said tiger. I think it's a tiger. Well, that was in the ballpark, and I found that very interesting. You know, orange. Tigers are orange for the most part. So I'm going to go to Maxwell, hey, how you doing? You got the megaphone.
I'm doing good. By the hand motion you made there,
Yeah.
my first guess was the SpongeBob imagination thing where the rainbow goes above his head.
Is that going to be I'm hoping that's your guess. Is that going to be your guess for the...
That's my guess.
All right, good. Stick with that, okay? Don't change your mind on that. So SpongeBob, something related to SpongeBob. All right, fair enough. That's good. So going back to the new year, I asked you guys already, but for those of you who are new to the audience, what was your new year? Anything spooky happen? I know something weird happened to me. I had a pretty fucked up dream the night before. It was really weird, really bizarre. But my dog keeps doing this weird shit where it's like someone's trying to feed my dog, but no one's there. He's like, she's looking at somebody who's not there. It's really bizarre. She's never done that prior to 2020, and I'm sure it's got nothing to do with the new year, but it's a little bizarre what's going on with her. Maybe she's just old. Shadow Ha, you have the megaphone. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. I haven't had anything spooky happen this year, but I did have something happen a couple of years back.
Yeah.
We were ghost hunting in this one area, and my team was up on the upper level of the house that we were at. There was another team down below, and we're trying to remain quiet because we don't want to disturb the team. Think that stuff is going on. So we're hearing them call out to whatever spirits may be there, like, you know, hey, if you're here, send us a sign. If you're here, move this, different stuff like that. And I'm sitting at this desk, and I've got my flashlight sitting on there, and I accidentally knock it off, and it falls to the ground. Next thing I hear is the team down below. Can you do that again? And we all kind of look at each other, and I look at my team leader. I'm like, should I do it again? Of course, they were like, no. But yeah. But I miss. It's kind of funny, but I miss doing the whole ghost hunting thing. I did that. Been on a lot of ghost hunts. Haven't really discovered anything. But the one time I did, I was with my sister at the Crescent Hotel, and she had told me stories about it ages ago. I didn't know what to make of it. I got up there and I'm feeling some kind of weird presence over to my right. I'm looking over at it and I'm like, what the hell is that? So I'm looking all around trying to figure it out, and I look and it's like 3 floors below me in the staircase. And told her about that. I was like, I don't know what the hell it was, but there was this thing down there, 3 floors down, ground floor, that was looking at me. I don't know what it was. And she told me that was the thing that she had experienced some 2-3 years before, where she tried to take a photo of this one spot, and the camera wouldn't do it. And all she saw physically was darkness in that area. So yeah, that whole experience of being able to feel that presence down there, what got me into ghost hunting, and I miss it. I've been watching some of the stuff here on Oculus where they're doing ghost hunts, and it kind of brought me back to that. So
interesting. You know, I don't know how reliable some of these apps are on the phone. For example, you have one called Ghost Radar. There's people that have posted YouTube videos on stuff like that. Of course, there's not going to be a whole lot of people that are going to go out and get their own EVP recorders and stuff like that, Ghost Box and stuff like that. But there are apps, definitely. I don't know how reliable they are. I remember years ago, I purchased the Ghost Radar on my iPhone 5 back when I had a 5 or a 4, I forget what it was. And I did have some interesting experiences with that. Whether or not they were objectively real, I found that what did happen was very interesting, actually. And I don't know what quantum flux is, but apparently, according to this app, it operates by measuring quantum flux. There's a gyrometer or something like that inside or built into the iPhone, and it uses that with some other piece of technology or whatever to measure the so-called quantum flux. So the experiences I've had with that were interesting. There's some that are fake out there. For example, it'll go off on a timer and shoot a picture with a supposed ghost right next to you. And I found that wasn't accurate. I didn't think that was the real deal. But with the Ghost Radar, I found that I left it alone for hours at a time. I remember that, and nothing. I would go throughout the house sometimes, and in certain spots, it would actually respond. I've mentioned many times that my grandma's house is kind of a hot spot for weird shit, and responded a lot more in that house than it has where I'm at right now. So I find that when it did respond, it said things that were really, really spot on. I remember one time I took the phone with Ghost Radar, and I went to my mother's kitchen on the other side of the house, and her TV would turn on and off because I think it had some electrical issues. The house was really old, and the TV was kind of fucked up anyway. So I think that's what the on and off thing was all about. But I would take the Ghost Radar next to it, and there was always a clock on top of that TV. I remember, and I remember it specifically said clock. It was just so blatant. It said clock, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I wasn't pointing it at it. I'm looking at it at this angle, and so the camera's facing that way, and then that way. The clock was right up here, so I didn't feel like there was any way that it could recognize that there was a clock there, a digital clock. But it did say clock. Okay, great coincidence. So I remember going to the very front of my mom's house, and she has a washing machine up in the very front. And I remember it said cow, and it made no sense. I was just like, well, there's a plot there. There's no cows here. And the weirdest thing, I remember looking up, and my mom had those little wind chimes. She had a wind chime on the very corner. Why it was in the corner? It was there in the corner. A wind chime of a cow. There was a cow, right? I've never really noticed it. I was just like, hey, wait a minute. There's a wind chime right there, and there's a cow on top. Wow. Okay. Cool. And so I did find that very interesting. And it's only on certain parts of the house. Like I said, there's other parts of the house that never gave off any signals or anything like that. So who knows if these things are accurate or not. But again, the app is still available. It's called Ghost Radar for any of you guys who are interested in stuff like that. I did go to a graveyard one time too. And I tried to suspend my disbelief during this point. I remember asking, is there anybody here? And it did say yes. Again, another blatant hit. It could have, on the flip side, it could have been recording me and knowing what to say in advance. I don't know how this thing works. I just know that it did respond. Maybe it uses GPS location. I don't know what it does. But assuming that it's legit, it did say yes when I asked, and then I said, "So how did you die? Were you killed?" And before I asked the question, I say, "Were you killed?" But before I even finished the sentence, right in the middle of the word "kill," it said yes again. I was like, "Holy shit, that's creepy." So that's a true story. That happened, and I really don't know how this app operates, but quantum flux. I have no idea what that is. Hey, you have the microphone. Go ahead. Hey.
Thanks. So two things. First thing is supposedly Snapchat can like recognize energies. So there's this girl on YouTube. Her name is Morgan Adams, and she had an experience with let's say a ghost, because like that's what she calls it. So ghost named Angie. And she met this ghost, like, I don't know, a few years back, and she's always, like, had her around. And she was like, hey, Angie, show your face with this, like, she said something, and then the filter, she had it towards a wall, because she had the filter on her face, and then she turned it, and nobody was there. But then the filter recognized a face, like, and it was on the face after. So I don't know if that was like some coincidence, but it happened multiple times. If you want to like look up her videos and stuff and see like for yourself, I mean, like it's pretty cool to see, because she also took a picture where supposedly Angie died. And in the picture, she was just her, and you can see some other girl's hair on her shoulder. Nobody else was standing next to her. So, yeah, that was kind of creepy. But, I mean...
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I don't have Snapchat myself, but I know what it is, obviously. But it's a feature I didn't know that Snapchat actually had. What's it called again?
What's what called again?
Well, you said Snapchat has it so that it can pick up on these types of things. Is it an actual feature that it advertises?
No, it's not like any certain...
Oh, okay.
No,
Okay,
it's
so
not a specific filter. It's just any filter that you use. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, I was thinking like maybe the next time your dog does that, like try and like see if you can find a face. I don't know.
That's something I did not consider.
Yeah. The second thing was like I had Ghost Radar. I still do have it, but I don't use it at all. But I downloaded it in the first place because I had this feeling that something was following me, like a while back ago. And it was like following me for like a week. So in the middle of the week, I downloaded the app, and then it confirmed it. Like there was like a dot where, like the dot is supposed to be energy, right? So the dot was like either in front of me or behind me, but like really close to like the center circle. You know how there's like the 3 or 4 circles and then the center. So it was really close to the center, and it was either in front of me or behind me. And then like literally it was there every time I checked. So every single time I opened to check, it was there. So I was like, okay, maybe it's just trying to mess with me. But then by the end of the week, I was like, okay, whatever's here, just leave me alone, go away. And then the next day, it was gone, completely gone. And then nothing else like showed up for a while. And then I checked it later, and there's other things, but not the same dot. It wasn't in the same place, so.
Well, the thing with the ghost radar is it picks up on different things. So supposedly, when you look at it, there's a classic radar that kind of reminds you of those people in the naval observatories or whatever, like people that can pick up things on the air, those types of radars. And it also, you can switch screens, and it actually has kind of like a graph where it reminds me of like a heart monitor or something like that. And I don't really know what a lot of the numbers represent, but I do know that it'll say words in addition to all this other stuff it's doing. And I remember the words at one time told me some stuff that was pretty interesting. It said judge, law, and some other word, but I do remember those 2 words, judge and law, that meant absolutely nothing to me at the point. And coincidentally, the next day I got a summons for jury duty. So I found that very interesting. I don't really know the mechanics behind the ghost radar. I just know that I don't know. It's difficult for me to say that it works because I haven't tested it enough, but I've had a lot of hits on there, so I'd like to lean towards that. Yeah, it probably does work. So Universal, you have the megaphone. Go ahead.
So I never.
Oh, try that again. Go ahead.
Yes. So I never really thought about ghosts. Wondered if they were real. But a couple months ago, at some of my buddies' house, and it was me, my friend, and we were over at another friend's house, and they were outside, and I went inside, laying down on the couch, little swamped, tired, and I hear them down in the garage area where they got the pool table. There's a stairway up that leads from it's like a garage basement that leads up the side of the house, and I hear footsteps go up the stairs and the door open, and I'm waiting for them and waiting for them to come around the corner, and they never come. All right, whatever. And then I hear that again, but 2-3 minutes later, I'm wondering if they're down there, and I'm not really interested in what they're up to. So I just wait for them to show up, and they come back in the back door, up through the backyard the other way. But 10 minutes after that, I don't really think anything of it. I don't mention it to them. But later, we were sitting around, and my buddy mentions how he was told that his house might be haunted. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? Why is that? He's like, well, our other friend has heard footsteps coming around. And sometimes the lights, especially in the kitchen or the living room right here, will just turn on and off. I was like, yo, that's crazy. I told him about how I heard the footsteps going up and down And as we were talking about that, the light behind us in the kitchen started turning off and on, and turned off and turned back on twice. And we didn't know what happened. So that was a little odd.
Yeah, that sounds pretty trippy. I mean, it kind of sounds like stuff that some people have experienced before. I know I've seen shit turn on and off. Like again, my mom's TV.
Exactly.
I had flickers and, you know what I mean?
I
I've
was
had
thinking
stuff like
it
that
could have just
happen.
been electrical too.
Right.
But given the fact that I heard the footsteps earlier, and that's what made me ask about it, and then he said, yeah, our lights also flicker on and off. After I'd heard the footsteps earlier, it was just coincidental, to say the
Yeah.
least.
So now that's spooky. I like that. I like how these things happen, and assuming that it's a ghost. There's a lot of different interpretations of what this phenomenon could actually be. Some of them say they're ghosts. Some of them say they're entities from a different
His
dimension. Some
dad
people say
also believes that Bigfoot is an entity from a different dimension. And he's
Yeah.
actually a really
Yeah.
smart, rational guy. And one day he's always into Bigfoot. And then one day I remember he went on a camping trip searching for Bigfoot with some other guys that he knew. He would do that a lot. And he came back talking about how like Bigfoot isn't a physical being. Bigfoot's a entity from a different dimension, and they'll come through portals in the forest. And Bigfoot's just the form they take. And he's telling me this when I'm like 13, 14 years old. I'm like, dude, this is some crazy stuff, but you're not crazy. So I don't know what to think of it. But who knows? Maybe it was Bigfoot or whatever Bigfoot is.
That's interesting. I've had people actually come up with the same consensus when it comes to figures like Jesus. I've actually talked to somebody about this recently. He said that Jesus was an alien, and we were kind of going back and forth about that. It was pretty interesting, but I guess we'll save that one for another time. But yeah, it's interesting to note that maybe some of these cryptids could be aliens from another dimension or whatnot. Guess 3609. Go ahead.
I was already just about to leave. Okay, then.
Thanks, Sonny. Leviathan, you have the microphone. Love your name.
So, hope you don't mind me telling two. They're not long, but
Yeah, go
so I lived in another small town that's 15 minutes away from here. When I was, let's say, like 10, 11, we lived in a big house. It was nice, old, and I was chilling on the couch with my sister and my like two brothers. We're just jamming out with music and stuff, and the house had large wooden sliding doors, and we left them all open. So we heard noises because we also had hanging pots in the kitchen. So I was like, all right, I'll go check it out. They'll have fun. I'll be okay. So I walked barely through the first wooden door into the dining room, and I peeked around the corner to make sure no animal was in the house, and they stopped, and I waited a few minutes just to make sure it wasn't anything again. They just crashed together again. I was like, okay, I'm going to go closer. So I took 2 steps in the dining room and stopped, and this, I don't want to say there was like at least 3 of them. The 3 like black figures, which I call them spirits and things, because at that time I was like, oh, they're just ghosts. I don't know if they're harmful or not just because they're black. So I walked closer, and 2 of them like vanished, like they disappeared in a split second, like in a blink of an eye. And the other one that was closer like vanished and appeared right in front of me, and it said something, and I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was along the lines like, you don't belong here, this isn't your place. So I freaked out. So I ran back into the living room. They thought I was making up stuff. So I was like, no, look over by the dining room door. I'm shaking, I'm freaking out, I'm about to cry, and I nearly never cry. And here they are again, appeared. And like, they all stomped their foot and like screamed. Not my siblings, the spirits did. Like the scream was clear as day, like they were yelling. And it was, after that was a fun experience. But
Yeah, it
that's when I
sounds
started.
pretty crazy. I mean,
Yeah, I started to believe in that, and then now, since I still believe in it, which it's cool. My stepdad, I'm 18, you guys, so my stepdad passed away 4 or 5 years ago of pancreatic cancer, sadly. But
sorry about that.
we live in an old house again, which was made like 1950s, and we believed that there still is a guy in here named, we call him Cowboy because we don't know his name. He's dressed in a cowboy hat and cowboy clothes, and if we do anything this house, we can't just do it. We can't fix it or anything unless we get permission from him. Because we are taking down the chimney and we forgot to ask, and the chimney's from the attic down to the basement. And we were halfway done, and Dad almost fell, and he could have died from doing that. So we asked from that, and now, since he died of pancreatic cancer, he haunts this place, and I get messed around with the most. So there's banging on my wall, and my stuff moves and disappears. But I enjoy spirits, and I'm not afraid of them. So I try to help people with them as much as I can. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think one, you reminded me of an experience I did have that it wasn't that profound, but it's something that I do remember now that you mentioned that. It wasn't that crazy, but I remember waking up one morning back when I was living in my old house, my grandma's house, and I remember the covers. I woke up so cold, but I remember the covers were completely off of me, and they were like towards the very end of my bed, but not like I kicked them off. The whole thing was off my bed, and I remember distinctly, like, what the hell? Nobody came in here and took the covers off of me, so I wonder how that happened, unless I just started rolling around, going crazy in my dreams or something. But I just remember waking up so cold because I didn't have the blanket on me, but the blanket was completely thrown off my bed. It only happened one time. Never happened again, but that's something that did occur. But anyway, so these experiences that we have, I think, are things to pay attention to. I really don't know what exactly all these experiences mean collectively. I just know that your subconscious mind is picking up on some of these things. Now, whether or not these experiences are again objectively real, they're verified by your experience. So your reactions to these phenomenon are genuine. And I think that's what you should be focusing on instead of the experience itself being real or fake. And that begs the question too: how many experiences do you have to have before you decide, hey, you know what, this is some real shit? Because as far as the ghost radar is concerned, I've had a lot of hit, right? I've had a lot of positive feedback from that, like, hey, this is legit. How many of those fucking experiences do I need before I say, this is real? I don't know. I just feel like it's, in my gut, I feel like it's not enough. I need more of that. Because I have not had anything like that since. But when you have experiences like the ones you guys are explaining to me, all you need is that one experience to say, this really fucking happened. Science is not going to be able to measure it for you, probably. And so a lot of people will say, well, that's fake. But your reaction to these experiences is the point. That's what counts. It's a real experience that your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between it being fantasy or reality. And that's the whole point. So there, again, I've mentioned people have died in their dreams before, nightmares and stuff like that they've had. Their subconscious mind is responsible for your breathing, for example, right? People have died in their sleep just from having nightmares, being essentially scared to death. So that's about as real as it gets, okay? So it's very powerful. Your mind is pretty fucking powerful, all right? So don't underestimate your experiences. Like, oh, this is nothing. Ghosts are bullshit. If you can say that all you want consciously, that these things are real. But like I said, your conscious mind doesn't know yes or no. It doesn't know the difference between what is real or not. You go to a haunted house, see a scary movie, and you legitimately get those butterflies in your stomach. Holy shit. You know what? Your subconscious mind cannot tell that this is just a movie. This is just a haunted house. It's Halloween. It cannot tell that difference. And so people that are repeatedly exposed to these types of things, I've known a few people that have developed anxiety disorders and stuff like that. And a lot of them are people that are pretty cool, but they're into some dark stuff. People like me, for example, I'm into a lot of dark shit. And I do have some anxiety, a little more than some other people I've met. But that's just an example of how your subconscious mind is strong enough to I guess, shape your life, your reality based on those experiences. Personality is shaped by that. So don't underestimate it. And don't expose yourself to too much negative shit either, because even though it's on the news, even though it's just a story you heard, it affects you. It affects you in a bad way, in a negative way. So, and a lot of people don't consider those types of things. But anyway, as far as ghosts are concerned and this type of thing, I don't think these are negative experiences. But if you're like scared or you get a real scary experiences, that's one thing. But I encourage people to, instead of being scared, just to, again, approach these experiences with an open mind. Try to be intuitive to the message you're getting behind these experiences, because they might not be as negative as you think. Sunny, you have the megaphone. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, you've inspired me to kind of come forward and share something that I actually have experienced. Because, like you had just said, you know, you've experienced some stuff, but you're still not totally sold on the idea of ghosts, and I agree with you on that. This happened. It was just a little while after I graduated from high school. I was still living at home with my dad. My stepsister had already moved out with her boyfriend at the time, and they had moved into a new house. And we went over to check out the new place. He invited us over. And I apologize. This story, I will fully admit, as a skeptic, straight out, this story sounds like made up bullshit. And I have held back from sharing it because of this so far. But again, you inspired me to be open and honest about what I experienced. So I'm going to just go ahead and share it. Believe it if you want or not, whatever.
Please do.
So we just got to her house, and she told us, you know, she was kind of throwing a housewarming party, so she was off in the kitchen trying to prepare stuff and talking to other people, and she said that we could just go ahead and explore the house. So I went ahead and just started up the stairs, and I got right up to the second floor, and before my foot landed on the top landing, I froze. I just felt this immediate sense of just pure dread. I could not bring myself to take another step forward. No idea why that happened, but the dread was palpable. I could feel it in my chest.
Yeah.
So I turned around, I went back downstairs, and I found my sister in the kitchen, and I walked up to her, and this probably, I still remember the look on her face when I said this. I walked up to her and I said, "Hey, this is going to sound really, really weird and random, but is your house haunted?" And her face just blanked. And she looked at me and she goes, "Who told you to say that?" I said, "Nobody. I just went up your stairs and I got to the top floor and it freaked me out. I felt really uncomfortable, so I came down here and I was wondering." And she goes, "Well, it's really messed up that you say that, because I had been warned by some people in like a local paranormal group when I bought this house that the house was haunted. And I thought that she told me that she had thought that they had told her that so that she wouldn't buy the house because they wanted it or whatever."
Yeah.
But after I told her that, she actually, after that experience, she reached out. I stayed the night with her that night. That was the original plan. But she reached out to that group that had told her the place was haunted, because they had actually asked if they could come in and investigate, and she had told them no before. But that night, she invited them over while I was over there to come and investigate. And I asked if I could follow them around, because, you know, even though it was terrifying, I'm a curious person. I was excited. I wanted to see what would happen. So they had a tool called an ovulus. Do you know what that is?
No, what is that?
Okay, it's like a ghost box, but instead of pulling random radio frequencies through the speaker, it has a library of words saved to it, and it'll pull from that library of words. So they had an ovulus. it was pretty neat, like really creepy robot sounding voice too, so it fits the whole theme. But they said that I could follow them as they walked the house and did that. And since I told them about what I had experienced on the stairs, that's where they started. So they went up the stairs first, and I followed behind them. And as soon as the person got to the top stair, and I swear to God, even though I'm an atheist, I swear to God this is true. Yeah. The Ovilus spoke up and said, "No worry, no worry." And we just froze. And I got super excited because that was where I had felt that feeling of just intense dread. And from that point, it said hallway. So we followed it down the hallway. And I will admit, I didn't feel the dread the second time when we were up there at the top of the stairs. Maybe it was because I was with other people or whatever, but I was more excited than anything else at this point. So it said hallway. We walked down the hallway, and then it said attic when we got to the door that had stairs that led up to the attic. We went up into that attic, and then it didn't have any more activity after that. But they took a picture up in the attic, and they brought the picture in to my sister the next day. That was like it showed. They said I didn't see it in the picture. I think they might have been wanting us to see something that may not have been there. But they said that there was like an apparition of somebody hunched over in that picture. I didn't see that in the picture, but it was a fun night regardless, and one that I will never forget.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds pretty trippy. I mean, wow. You see, I wish my ghost experiences were that profound, because, I mean, I've had a few, but I just feel like, without comparing too much, I feel that other people's experiences are so much more fun. I kind of wish that it was kind of like the movies where shit pops out at you and just blatantly tells you how it really is. And I have yet to experience anything that awesome yet.
I hate how stereotypical that story was, though. Because it's the reason that and I guess there must be a reason for that people's stories are so similar that way. There's something to it, but that's why I've held back on telling you so far, just because I knew I'd get ridiculed for it.
No, you're not going to get any ridicule here. The reason why, like I've said, is because a lot of adults operate on the conscious mind, and so the conscious mind is the one responsible for logic or common sense telling you that shit isn't real. Your subconscious mind that perceives things that your conscious mind can is the one that's pushed back. Like I said, kids don't push theirs back because that's where they operate as conscious. They can't tell the difference between what's real or not. So the fact that adults out there that engage their subconscious mind can have these experiences, telling other adults about them, other adults that do say, well, that's not real, that's bullshit, are basically admitting that they themselves are incapable of experiencing these because they're consciously choosing to block these things out instead of suspending their disbelief. So I give you a lot of credit to being able to pick up on stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Again, as I've said, whether or not this experience that you've had is verifiable through any measurable means, you had an experience, your reaction was genuine. That's where the paranormal is. You know what I mean? Without you to experience this type of stuff, I mean, where's the paranormal event? You know what I mean? So that's the whole point. And I find it really interesting nonetheless. So I'm going to wrap up here before we go to the big reveal of the night. Normal, Evie, you do have the megaphone. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jesus. I have a story.
I'm so sorry that you waited that long just to get kicked out. Shaiwumi, you do have the megaphone. Go ahead.
I don't have a story. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So with that said, guys, can I share another story? Well, there's a few stories. Perhaps next time, because we're at the end of the show here, and I want to go ahead and remind you guys that there is a picture hidden behind this one. And I wanted you guys at the very beginning of the show to kind of pick up on that, if you could. Just the first image that pops into your head. I really can't give you an instruction as to how to really engage your subconscious mind, other to quiet your mind and to not battle what ghosts through your head with your conscious awareness. Don't try to guess and have all these multiple things going through your head. What could be this, could be that. Just quietly try to pick up the first thing that you feel. It's more of a feeling more than it is a conscious effort to think. That's the best way I can actually describe it. So if you can pick up on what is behind this picture, whether it's an image or a color, just know that it's not a word, it's an actual image. Okay, and there's a reason behind that. So with that, I want you guys on the bottom right, you will see the raise hand option. Just the first thing that comes to your head. You only get one try. I want you to raise your hands and tell me what you feel is actually back there. And I will try to project it one more time before we go to the audience. Okay, so let me see. All right, so with that, I'm going to go to the audience now. Vince Kills, you have the megaphone. Go ahead. What do you think is back there? Vince Kills. You do have the megaphone. Let's try that again. One more time. Okay. Well, while you figure that out, we'll come back to you. Sonny, you have the megaphone. What do you think?
Something mechanical, like with gears and stuff.
Mechanical, okay. Chris, what do you think?
I actually have nothing. I'm going to say it's some kind of void.
A void? All right, interesting. Leviathan, what do you think?
Something like tall, more physical, like some type of creature.
Like a creature. Okay, gotcha. All right, interesting. Let's see. What do you think?
So, the first thing I got was two like deep dark eyes that are kind of like tunnely, and the second thing was a tunnel, but like deep dark eyes, like something that deep that are like voidy, like a void.
Is it kind of like that picture? Like that picture behind you? That one right up there? Like eyes like that, deep and dark, void?
I can't see it.
Oh. All right. Khan, what do you think?
No, like rounder and deeper.
Rounder and deeper, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. All right. What do you think, Khan?
I see either a cup or something holding a liquid.
A cup or something holding a liquid. Interesting. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
No.
No colors? No, okay. Gotcha. No problem. All right. Billy, what do you think?
I'm thinking it's some form of astrophotography.
All right. Interesting. Okay.
Starscape of some sort.
Starscape. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Now, to you guys out there that at the very end of the show, when you guys go and take a look at what it is, what you see or what you missed or what you got, just know that if you don't get it right, that does not mean that you're not psychic. It does not mean that you are not capable of intuition or whatever. All it really implies is that you would do better to practice this type of stuff. And again, I do recommend quieting your mind, meditation, that type of stuff. Not only is it healthy, but it will engage your subconscious awareness more and create a sensitivity to these types of things. And that's how you practice this type of stuff. And I'll be able to eventually demonstrate this to you myself eventually. But let's see. Okay, I had one of you guys raise your hand and turn it back down. I know there's quite a few of you in here, and so far I don't have anyone else who's raised their hand, so that's okay. I don't expect everybody to make a guess. So with that, let's take a look at what was actually back there. By the way, the image that you see, I created. So go ahead and take a look.
Oh, you made that?
Yes, I painted that.
That is beautiful. Watercolor?
I painted that with two colors. They're watercolors.
Beautiful.
Two watercolors. some seawater, a real shitty kid's brush, and a piece of broken plastic that I kind of used to shape the mountains with. So. I think that, where's the dates? When did I make this? 2 years ago.
A fellow artist. You just got more respect from me.
Thank
So
you, appreciate it.
What were you feeling? Do you remember what you were feeling when you were painting this?
I felt very sleepy. I couldn't sleep, and so I decided to paint. That's what I felt.
That's hilarious.
Being that it was,
My username.
yeah, being that it was 2 years ago, it was definitely a feeling that I quickly forgot, because after I painted that, I do remember falling asleep. So anything that happened before that was just history. But anyway, I appreciate you guys coming out here tonight and joining us at the Witching Hour. I'm going to go ahead and host this again tomorrow night. All the shows are being recorded, by the way, so I'm sure you guys are aware of that, those of you who bother to read the introductions. And I'm going to be posting these on YouTube, and I will be revealing the address. Actually, you guys should already know. There's only one video up right now, because uploading these videos does take some time, unfortunately, especially if they're an hour long. They take really, really long to upload. And sometimes I have to go back and edit. There's a lot of dead air in the very beginning of the video. And obviously, people don't want to see that kind of shit. I had to edit down one of my comedy show videos. Essentially, what took an hour condensed to 25 minutes. And that took me almost a couple of hours to do and upload. So this does take time. If you are curious to see this video, however, there's only one. It is Leviathan, AltSpaceVR. You can look up that on YouTube, and you will see one video, AltSpace prank calls. And I will be creating playlists dedicated to these two shows, the Witching Hour and the Prank Call Happy Hour. So the next thing I'm going to be uploading is the Witching Hour, so you'll be able to see reruns of the show and see yourself stalking and see what we talked about here. And it'll just be a series that we can look back on. It's definitely something I wanted to get done for the new year, and I'm glad I finally got around to doing that. So appreciate all you guys coming out here tonight. We'll catch you guys tomorrow at the Witching Hour. So I'm Leviathan saying good night. Oh, I think I hit you right in the head, man.
This isn't real life.
Yeah.